Welcome back to another episode of the 5 and 20 podcast, where we have at least another 5 questions in 20 something minutes. Today, we're talking about what happens when a personal health crisis becomes a food service solution. Our guest, Kerry Brown, is a co founder of G.A.N.G.S.T.E.R, a line of baking mixes free of the top 14 allergens. Kerry co founded the company after her own autoimmune diagnosis with a mission to bring joy and freedom back to people on restorative diets. What started as a bootstrap right before COVID is now available for food service distribution throughout the country and is already showing up in university dining halls, including Vanderbilt, and another one that's probably coming this fall that I know of, at least one other one. And for food service directors, chefs, anyone that's managing increasingly complex dietary needs across your communities, this episode is for you. And for anyone who just wants to know what it means to eat gangster, this episode is for you as well. Make sure you stick around for all the value to be dropped in this episode. Kerry, welcome to the 5 and 20 podcast. So great to have you here today, and I appreciate you tuning in just to drop more value about who you are and this solution that you have for our industry here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Awesome. And so to get started, I want to get to know a little bit more about you. So you're based in Charleston. What's your favorite thing to do when you're just like unplugging from work?
Oh, well, in Charleston, we are 15 minutes from a bunch of beaches. So for me to take my almost 8-year-old daughter and go out to the beach, I love it. Bike ride, just anything to be outside and enjoy the Charleston weather, I'm in.
Yeah, that's quite opposite of what I'm experiencing here today in upstate New York. So, yeah,
Yes.
super jealous of that. And that's close to an area where I hope to call home one day, not in the near future, but hopefully in the future, I'll be somewhere in the Carolinas.
Yes.
So, now let's talk about the company Eat Gangster. And so, the acronym Gangster stands for something, and I've always been curious myself. I can see on the website what the letters mean, but can you break it down for our audience here? What is the acronym, and tell us how the name came about? Even more so, I'm surprised I haven't asked this question before.
Sure. In fact, I have a pouch in front of us here. So, yes, you can see the gangster right across here, and it kind of outlines what we're all about. But bottom line, when we created these mixes, we knew they were free of so many things, but it's hard to try to communicate all of that with one name. And so we thought, is there an acronym we could come up with that could be interesting, engaging, thought provoking, and get people to remember us? I was, in fact, breastfeeding at the time my 22-month-old baby in a dark room and kind of formulating all these ideas, and suddenly like just words started coming out with the letters of all the words, the phrase that we were trying to explain. And so gangster just came from there. So it was sort of a, I don't know, maybe fortuitous or just kind of an interesting process in creating the brand itself.
Love it. And I'm not too surprised. I did a little LinkedIn creeping. I saw that you were in marketing, pretty big marketing. So I shouldn't be shocked that you were able to come up with such a clever name.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I did have a fun career at Lululemon Athletica for about 8 years. And then actually my husband and I owned a dog hotel in Manhattan for about 8 years.
Oh,
And yes,
wow.
most of my roles have been around marketing and just kind of creating interest and awareness around consumer brands. So,
Love it. I've always been jealous how you've had a name just so dialed in.
oh, thank you.
So now let's talk a little bit about the why, just, at least a part of the why. So we know that this food as medicine movement has been kicking around and is gaining more and more and more popularity over time. So let's talk a little bit about what does that actually mean in practice, not just as a concept, because I know that our directors are experiencing this more and more from their student populations.
Sure. So the genesis of Eat Gangster kind of it came from a pretty dark place wherein I was struggling with an autoimmune disease. I have an identical twin sister who was also struggling, and then our co-founder was struggling, all in our own pathways, though. And ultimately, all three of us, in our own ways, landed on the AIP diet. AIP stands for Autoimmune Protocol Diet. It is one of the most strict elimination diets you can find. And what we found is it took away so many of our symptoms and really brought everything down to a very normal level as far as like anxiety. My sister was having panic attacks, arthritic issues. My co-founder has psoriatic arthritis. I have Hashimoto's. So all of these things began to quell. But the worst thing about being on an elimination diet like this, or any kind of restrictive diet, whether it's for allergies or cancer protocols, is it's so isolating and it's so frustrating and it feels unsustainable for someone to try to eat this way for the rest of their life, particularly when they've maybe been used to more of a standard American diet. So we created G.A.N.G.S.T.E.R to kind of tick all the boxes so that in fact, it is AIP compliant, which is very hard to do in baked goods, to not have eggs, not have flour, all the stuff that is normally made. And with that, we in fact originally started it as an AIP diet solution, but as we kind of grew over the next 2 or 3 years, we really started seeing the fact that, wait a minute, we are top 14, top 9, whatever is the most common people to say, top 9 free.
Yeah.
And that really started resonating with people who are unable to have a baked good because even if they're gluten free, there's almonds in it, or there's all this stuff. So our baking mixes are clean ingredients, but also free of all these other things. So it makes it really compliant for a lot of people's restrictive diets.
Yeah, that's so true. And I feel like you hit a mark there in terms of food as medicine and the whole healing process from within. Going back to food, it's not always just popping a pill. And I feel
Yes.
like the doctors and medical field is starting to catch up with that. We both have a mutual connection that is very much well aware of that as well with his brand and his products as well. And I just think that this is not going to go away.
It's exciting too because what people are finding, it's so intuitive. It's just that we try to band-aid everything with pills and technology when it's all about what are we putting into our bodies that works for our body. And unfortunately, every body is so different. It's hard to have an exact science for each body, but once you can learn, it's amazing. I now do not take any thyroid medication. My co-founder does not take any medication for her psoriatic arthritis. My twin sister takes zero medication for her panic attacks and anxiety. It's all gone because of what we put in our bodies. It takes a long time,
Yeah.
sometimes years, but it's all down here.
Love it. And so, speaking of top 14 allergens, I'm going to give you a pop quiz here. Top 14. We know the top 9. I can recite the top 9 like it's like the
Oh
back of
no.
my hand.
Okay.
Wheat, egg, soy milk, peanut, tree nut, shellfish, fish, sesame. And
Yes.
then celery, mustard,
Yeah, I was gonna say celery, mustard. I'm gonna have to look this up, Josh.
sulfites.
I'm sorry. I don't have the
No worries.
order.
No worries.
I'm kidding.
Lupin, I know. So,
Yeah,
top
lupin, that's right.
mollusk, because so that's another one that I feel like a lot of people get confused with shellfish. Mollusk is kind of a separate category in and of itself.
I think the important thing is like, yes, it wouldn't be intuitive for, say, I've got a pancake mix in front of me, for a pancake mix to have mustard in it, right? It just wouldn't happen. But the important thing is that we're also not only free of these things, we're made on an allergy-friendly line. And so that's where it gets really tricky for people as they're navigating the allergy world. It's gluten-free, oh, but it's made on something that processes wheat,
Yeah.
nuts, tree nuts, on the line that we use. And I'm so grateful that our co-packer does this. It is free of all of these allergens. So it does not process mustard, for example. It does, dry mustards or what have you. All those little things that you need to think about, our co-packer eliminates. So that's where it's really helpful, is we have no claims for allergies on our products. And I think that's really helpful, especially for moms or schools or restaurants who are trying to navigate this for their children or for their consumers.
Yeah, absolutely. Healthcare, I'm sure, is another big segment
Yeah.
for sure. So, speaking of allergens, there is one ingredient in there that might confuse people. I think it's a star ingredient. So, what is that?
Yes, you nailed it. It's funny. So tiger nuts, I assume. Yes.
Yes, yep.
Okay. So yes, tiger nuts they're just misnamed, I think, but they've been around for thousands of years. They used to be used in horchatas in Spain, for example. The cool thing about tiger nuts, they are a root vegetable. They are not a nut, but they have a sweet, nutty flavor to them. So they're a little bit like an almond or an almond flour. It's a great ingredient. It is considered a superfood. It is high in fiber and it is a prebiotic fiber. So it's feeding the healthy bacteria of your gut. So yes, it is a star ingredient in our baking mixes, but it is not a nut.
Yeah, so it's almost like coconut, which finally got
Yes.
released from being claimed in the top nine. But yeah, it's very similar to that, where it's like they added that word at the end, and now it's causes a little confusion. But tiger nut in general, I'm like been just very curious about. I even started like looking. It's not easy to get your hands on, but yeah, it's very intriguing, and the texture that it brings to the products is also like I think everyone seems to appreciate it so far. What would you describe the texture and the flavor of it as?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's a lot like an almond flour, but again, no nuts. It is kind of nutty and it's sweet.
Yep.
It bakes beautifully in cookies, cakes, muffins, etc. It just gives a little more texture to it. It's not so, tapioca flour is so just, kind of stretchy and whatever. This just has a lot to it. And again, it's high in fiber, it's a resistant starch, so it's just better on your gut.
Absolutely. And so speaking of, the mixes and the different products that you can use it with, what are the products that you have on your website? I'm pretty good at I can probably recite at least half of them, but why don't you tell
should,
everyone here?
should we do a quiz or do you want me to tell you?
I'm not gonna know the marketing names. So the brownie,
That's okay.
the pancakes, the banana bread, the cinnamon. Cinnamon, I remember that one because I'm a huge cinnamon fan. So that's like a cake mix. And then like pizza crust.
Hmm.
That's where I'm gonna fall flat.
You're doing great. Yeah, we
Cookies.
have. Yes, we have two different cookies as well: a sugar cookie and then what we call oatmeal cookie mix, which is our take on a traditional oatmeal cookie mix. And then we have a pumpkin bread, which is more seasonal. That may be it. Did we
Yep.
miss anything? I think that's about right.
So the pancakes actually have cinnamon in it too. For anyone that
Yes.
hasn't tried it yet, you gotta check it out. If you love cinnamon, if you're I guess your guests, your whoever it is that your audience is day to day, if they love cinnamon, it's a phenomenal product, and I'm very impressed in the rising of it, right? For it not being traditional mix, which kind of brings me to another point here. So when it comes to misconceptions people might have about allergen-free food or the top allergen free food, especially around taste and texture. What are some of those misconceptions that people tend to have? And I'll speak maybe a little bit more towards mixes, baking mixes like you have.
I think a lot of people, anytime they hear something's healthier or whatever, oh, it's going to taste like cardboard. And I think what's important to note and what people are discovering is you can take healthful foods and make them totally delicious in a supernatural way. All of our mixes, the sweetened mixes, they call for 100% maple syrup. And another thing that we don't talk about in our branding with Gangster, but that's important is that all of our mixes are refined sugar free as well. And that is something that has been linked in a lot of scientific studies around mental challenges, whether it's focus, ADHD, ADD, etc. They find that refined sugars really impact that. Could be cane sugar or what have you. Maple syrup, because it is natural, it is not processed, it comes straight from a tree into your mouth, is it does not impact the brain in the same way. And so that's another important thing about our baking mixes is that they're healthier in that regard too.
Yeah, that's so true. I have a family member that talks about like smoothies. There's so much sugar, and it's like, but it's natural. It's not like a refined sugar, so your body processes it a little bit differently
It's
than if
different
you were just
and
adding granulated sugar.
yes, and true though, you they're learning more and more about this too. It is important to make sure if you're having, you don't want to just have a sugar bomb, right?
Yeah.
So making sure that there is fat and fiber in either in the mix itself or with what you're eating, I think is important. It's interesting as we've gone through and grown for the last 5 years. One thing we've learned a lot about our mixes is that they're super versatile, where you can add things to it. So, for example, the other day, I posted a recipe for a high protein cookie. I took our oatmeal cookie mix and oatmeal cookie. I added, and you wouldn't have to add the peanut butter or the almond butter, but you can do that as the fat. But then you can also add a couple scoops of collagen.
Uh,
And you know, you could do collagen, avocado oil, etc., and bring up every cookie. Then all of a sudden has 4 grams of protein in a little 1 or 2 inch cookie. So things like that. You can add chopped apples or raisins or coconut or what have you. So we're finding some really cool ways to create the mixes, just to bring even more health to them.
Yeah, more health and then more ways to use it instead of
Yeah.
having to make an entire new SKU and then someone has to buy a whole new SKU. Distribution, I'm sure that's all a headache when it comes to that. So yeah, I love that idea of just really expanding off of the current use cases that you have with the mixes. So let's start with like the baseline product development. You don't have traditional baking ingredients. You know, those are off the table when you're building a product like this, and not everyone is familiar with that. So, how did you approach it? What were the challenges when it came to this?
Interestingly, I don't know that I'd ever baked in my life before starting this
That's a
business.
great start.
Well, it was because I had no rules in my mind, right?
I love it.
A traditional chef knows exactly. I mean, you need 2 eggs to this to that. I have no idea about those things, and I think that was really important in this process. And it's taken years. This pancake mix itself, we've relaunched this 4 different times. We've reformulated it, trying just to get it better and better. And if I haven't made this recipe 125 times, I've made it 150 times. It over and over. A single day might have 12 different iterations of a single thing just to try to get it right. So, it just took a lot of practice. But again, not having the rules actually, I think, benefited me for this kind of role.
Nice. And one thing, actually, I do have a question because I've used the mixes a handful of times now, and I bought a couple. So, avocado oil, you mentioned on there, best texture. What's I never heard that before until the packaging on there. What's the why behind that? Like the avocado oil, like you've tried it against the others. What's the difference when you've probably tried them like right next to each other?
Yes, I mean, we do, it's tasty and texture that we mention. And so avocado oil, as you know, it's the most mild oil you can find. It's pretty blasé, not adding a whole lot of anything to it. It's also the most allergy friendly out there too, aside from olive oil. But olive oil can be pretty pungent, and so in a sweet baked good, olive oil can sometimes overtake things. I've baked plenty of, I've done the brownies with olive oil, and it kind of almost can elevate the flavor a little bit, make it a little more gourmet if you wanted. But the avocado oil is just the most basic, simple thing to make a great brownie. Um,
Gotcha.
we've used melted butter. We've used ghee. All of them will work. Melted coconut oil. We've generally stayed away from coconut just because, even though they've taken it out of the allergy thing, we've got a lot of customers, and in fact, our co-packer himself, they're allergic to coconut, and so we've just kind of kept away from coconut for that reason.
Interesting. I met someone, I was testing out recipes in the kitchen and free the top nine. So obviously coconut is an easy substitute in so many applications. And he was going around trying different products. I told him, be careful whatever you try here. He wasn't even part of it, but he was just roaming through the kitchen, chefs, cooks, just connecting. And he went up and tried something. I was like, what did I just tell you? And he never imagined that it would be in there. And he looked at me and it like went off. He was like, "Oh, it was a tiny amount, but nothing that could cause anything." But yeah, that's a little scary. I didn't realize it until this whole lift off came, and now it's like it's opened up Pandora's box where there's more people that have it that did not realize.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's why what you're doing is so important, because you have traditional chefs who are amazing at their craft, but all of a sudden they have to be so mindful of things they never would have, thought they needed to or what have you. It's so important, but and so yeah, what you're doing is just it's a big deal.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. And so speaking of what I'm doing, your product going into universities I know of, what segment of service are you seeing like the most growth with your product mixes? I know that the distribution has been expanding and this has been a great, probably past 12 months, which has probably been better than the 12 months before that. So where are you seeing the most growth? Where do you see the most potential?
So far, universities, I think, are the biggest potential because there is a growing awareness with younger people, the younger generations, the importance of clean eating, the importance of what you put in your body, and also all the diagnoses. They've gotten better, but also I think they've suffered more than our generation, even with allergies. Almost every, I'll say almost every, I have a ton of nieces. Every one of them has an allergy to something. And maybe it's a genetic link to their mothers, me. It could be, or to their family, or to the environment, or what we were putting in our body that impacted them. All the stuff matters. But our children have a lot more sensitivities than we did. And also, again, there's more knowledge, information, and diagnostics around it too. But I think that's why universities are the most important right now, is these people are seeking, they're looking for options. And they're not just looking for a gluten-free something. They'll look at the ingredients and see, oh, it has corn and rice and this and that and processed this and that. They're looking for clean ingredient, and I think that's where we fit in, and why we're seeing the growth that we're seeing.
Love that. And, it's such a great product because it's so inclusive to so
Yeah.
many different individuals, again, expanding outside of just the top nine category. So, institutions in general, we know allergies, it's constantly going to be a battle. Things are always going to change. New solutions are going to come up. This may be new for some listeners here, but if you could change one thing about how institutions think about dietary inclusion, given your family has such a rich, need for that with allergies throughout it, what would that change be?
Well, really, just honestly, just having options. It's really all it is. And it's pretty simple. For example, my twin sister has 6 restaurants in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they have a full allergy-friendly menu. It doesn't have everything on it, but it's very clear. It has it sectioned: gluten-free, vegan, this, that, just sections, and it just gives people options. How you feel when you walk into a restaurant and that is given to you is like, what? It's such a point of differentiation. You feel safe, you feel secure, you know that you can get whatever you want, and you know that everyone at the table is going to be satisfied. So I think that's a huge thing, and it just shows the awareness that the kitchen or the restaurant has. So for universities to be able to have that, it's also a great selling point for so many people to get the best of the best students in there offering things that work for their body. And again, I think that the whole trend of just clean eating in general is only going like this, right? So
Definitely is.
that is going to be a big push that all chefs are going to have to keep looking at and saying, okay, I can't use the seed oils anymore. I can't use this anymore. I got it. And so, getting people to think differently, and again, offering options on their menus.
So true. And I got to enjoy one of those 6 restaurants when I went down south a few months ago. And that was one of the best steakhouse experiences, the best steakhouse experience I've ever had. So it grabbed my heart for sure. And so, in terms of listeners, if they want to connect with you or learn more about Eat Gangster, where can they go?
Sure. So my email is kerry@eatgangster.com. That's pretty simple, Kerry. You can always go direct to me. If you have Josh's information, you can always go to Josh. And also, we're now available on the dropship programs for US Foods, Gordon Foods, Cisco, and Cheney Brothers. So if you order through any of those giant distributors, you'll be able to find our stuff on there. Just drop ship, but you can find it and order it. The orders come straight to me, and we process from there. So would love to hear from some of you. And if you have questions too, just shoot me an email.
All right, everyone. So, and Kerry, thank you for being such a great guest and giving so much great new information and value for me and for the audience today. And I appreciate you joining in for this episode.
Thank you for having me.
And everyone else, until next time, I'm your host, signing off.